Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Roll Tide Rewind. We are back breaking down the defense from the first 3 weeks of the season. In our previous video, make sure and go back and watch it if you didn't, but we broke down kind of the differences between the Kane Womack defense and the Nick Saban defense and some of the funky names like the Bandit position, the Wolf position. Like I said, definitely go back and rewatch that if you haven't. But today we are back to break down what we're seeing from this inexperienced secondary. Definitely some highlights and definitely some, dare I say it, lowlights in the first 3 games. So we're going to get into that today. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing great. Not in quite as good a mood to discuss some of the shortfalls of the defense as I was the first time when I was talking about 2 players, especially that I think have been really good. But like you said, there's obviously a lot of inexperience at the defensive back position. So we've seen some struggles. Luckily, we haven't really played a quarterback that's taken too much advantage of that so far, but one might be coming in our 4th game against Georgia.
Yeah, like kind of like Cole said, I was having a great day today, and then James was like, "Thomas, roll the plays where we get beat on the secondary," and my day just got ruined. So
Yeah, I'll take the blame on that one. We won't mention the fact that Thomas picked all these plays and compiled the video.
Hey! I'm gonna say I just did what I was tasked to do.
All right, so let's get into this first one here. We're not gonna harp on these DBs too bad, but I mean they're inexperienced. They're coming into college football. A lot of them true freshmen, but we do just want to kind of shine a light on what's been going on and how some opposing receivers have been getting open. So what do we see on this first one, guys? What kind of sticks out? What do we think went wrong on this one?
So I think for me, the biggest thing is the defensive back. I believe is that Mincy? Is that correct?
That is Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith. I think he's got to have outside leverage on this play. You've got the safety over the top on the inside. He tries to have outside leverage there, but then he gets beat. I mean, there's nothing else to say. This one isn't quite as concerning as some of the other ones we're going to see, at least to me, because that's got to be a really good throw to get that over the receiver's shoulder, keep it out of the reach of the 2 DBs trailing behind. But you got to maintain your leverage there. I don't think he does a very good job on this play.
Yeah, I don't think he does like the best job that he could, but yeah, I kind of agree with what Cole says there. That would have to be like a perfect throw to fit it into the receiver, because if it falls any lower, that could easily just bounce off one of Malachi or Devontae's helmets.
Yeah.
And it has to be a good long ball, but play the quarterback with the perfect accuracy. That could be a throw, but there's not many quarterbacks that can make that throw on occasion. So
yeah, Cole, I think your leverage point on Devontae Smith is a good one, and I think Malachi's got to stay over the top. I mean, he's the last line of defense. I know you can see it better from the other view, but they kind of put him in a bind, and they have one guy on each side of the field going vertical, so they kind of force him to pick one. But I think either way, you've got to just keep backpedaling, and like your number one job as the deep safety is don't get beat. And I mean, like you said, Devontae Smith doesn't do him any favors here by kind of losing his leverage, but I mean, Malachi did let him get past him. So I think really both of those guys, our goal is never to point fingers, but I think on this play, both of those guys kind of lost where they're supposed to be relative to that receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is also, I think the last thing to point out here is this is also a very good receiver. Will Pauling's very good for Wisconsin. Yeah. He had a very good game against us. He's been good for a while now in the Big Ten. So, and not to say we're not going to face any more good receivers. Like that's still going to be a problem all the time in the SEC. But I think Will Pauling runs a really nice route here. He sees he's got Devontae turned around and he makes a good move.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, so we'll go to the next one. The next 3 are all from the South Florida game. There was like a time in the first quarter, and this is like the first one of those where Byron Brown misses 3 touchdowns, and my goodness, he's just so wide open. And if you want to watch the replay here, it's just Red Morgan flat out gets beat.
Yeah.
I don't have much more to add. There's nothing more to it. He just flat out gets beat.
Yeah, this is a rough route.
I hate to bring this up. I know this is a sore memory, especially for Thomas, who was there for this. But this gave me Jalen Hyatt flashbacks. This was like this gave me PTSD, man. That was tough.
Yeah, it's interesting. It looks like Morgan's supposed to be in press here, but he just never gets a hand on the receiver. He's got to make a good punch to start it really actually doesn't look like he's impressed, which I'm still a little confused because normally he's playing a little bit off there, but not far off. And then he doesn't really like backpedal at the start of I'm not sure what he's doing, to be honest with you. At first look, I thought he was supposed to be impressed, but then he doesn't really make much of an effort to jam up the receiver at the line. So I think this is he just got beat.
I almost wonder because he kind of hesitates. He just kind of stands there without moving for just a tick after the ball snapped. I wonder if he just doesn't realize that the ball's been snapped. He's just a little late to recognize it, and it just gives the receiver just that little bit of extra time to get open on him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's asking a lot of Sab to get over there too, especially in this offense that spreads the ball out so much. That's asking a lot for Sab to get there. I mean, ideally he would stay on top of that, but I mean, when a guy's straight vertical like that, especially in this offense, that's tough for a safety to stay on top of everything and get that wide too.
Yeah. And something I wanted to mention, especially against South Florida, I think we came in with the game plan that they weren't going to beat us on the ground. And they did a lot of that. I think Byron Brown had a really good game running the ball. But I don't think we were nearly as concerned about him throwing the ball as we were about them running the ball. I think you'll see that on a couple of these plays, but on this one, we only have one safety who's not particularly deep. I don't think it's fair to ask your safety to have to come over from the middle of the field and make that play. I think the corner's got to do a better job.
Yeah,
and I think we were willing to live with this if he makes this throw. And I would say we bet right. It's scary to think about, but he didn't make any of these plays, so.
Yeah, we'll go into the next one. The next corner we'll look at is Xavier Brown. I don't think he necessarily does a bad job on this play, but it's more so these back-to-back plays that happen. Byron Brown is just targeting Xavier Brown, but receiver does have a bit of separation here. Ball is overthrown, but Xavier Brown isn't too far away. Like I kind of said with the Wisconsin route, great quarterbacks would make that throw, but in college football, there's I would say I don't know how many quarterbacks would make that throw, but it's not every quarterback make that throw. But the good ones, I feel like, would hit this one on the money, or at least get it to the receiver for a chance to make a play, not 5 yards over his head.
Yeah. And we talked about the last one being a tough play for a safety to make. You want to talk about a tough play for a safety to make, getting all the way outside the numbers to make that play. And we'll see that even more so on the next play. But that's just kind of the danger of playing this offense is they spread you out. They make you defend every inch of grass, even all the way outside of the numbers.
Yeah, like you said, I think that's a tough play for the safety to make, but I also think that's because Malachi's not in a very good position here. I don't think he gets enough depth to start with. I wonder if he loses this receiver as he kind of goes not quite out of bounds. Well, I guess that's the next play. Yeah,
well, I mean, honestly, it's both plays. On this one, you see where Malachi kind of starts out, and you see him perfectly the 45, kind of in the middle, and then he's not in really good position. And on the next play, when this play is over with, you'll go to the next one, and you kind of can see where Malachi is at the beginning of the play. Pause. Malachi is right there at the 50, in the way over in the middle of the field. Keon Sapp's walked up right here, and then Malachi's out of position. So if this play's hit, that's a money ball. That's just a perfectly run play.
And they get Xavier Brown to bite on the double move a little bit. I don't think that was the case in the previous play, but here they definitely get him to bite on that right there at the 35. Just a little bit of hesitation, and that's what creates that separation.
Yep. No doubt. This is a worse rep than the one before. He definitely gets caught a little flat-footed on the turn there, and then like we mentioned, Malachi kind of nowhere to be seen here. With him having to be the deep safety here, he's gotta have a sense of who's going deep. It's tough to get over there and get to the numbers, but I'd like to see him be a little closer to making that play.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only two receivers split out wide, one on the left, one on the right, and then they're the only two running routes on this play. And he kind of favored the other one, and the other one's when they gets beat.
I think also important to note, this is literally the very next play in the game, not just the next play in our breakdown here. They saw a vulnerability, I think, and they went back to it literally the very next play. And we're pretty fortunate that this one, for all of them, we were fortunate they didn't hit him, but especially this one because he had a few steps on him.
Yeah, and I don't know about Alabama, but if Dominique Jackson's on one side, we can put the safety on the other side. He's been incredible this year.
Yeah. He's been a bright spot in the secondary.
I don't remember a team throwing the ball to him because he's the corner on the other side, and I honestly don't remember a team throwing the ball towards his way this year. I feel like it's been very, very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think teams are choosing to pick on the freshmen a lot more, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Damani had a really nice season last year with USC, and I think he's a really, really good player. I think offensive coordinators have correctly identified there's a whole lot of experience in the secondary, and it's not necessarily with Damani Jackson, so it makes sense to target elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are just 4 plays that kind of highlight kind of how some misplays by the quarterbacks in the other team that could have been money balls. But I mean, there's been other instances. Cole, you were speaking about it, but before the show, kind of Bud Elliott was talking about how Western Kentucky had guys running wide open, but they don't have the best quarterback in the world to distribute the ball.
Yeah, so on the Cover 3 podcast, Bud Elliott, who works for CBS, he's really good. That whole podcast is very good. But he was talking about how when he was watching the All-22, he was seeing a lot of Western Kentucky guys making moves and getting open in the back, behind the secondary. Again, kind of picking on the inexperience that Alabama has. But fortunately for us, the quarterbacks for Western Kentucky struggled in that game and didn't see them. So there could be other plays like this that we didn't get a chance to see because the quarterback didn't throw the ball. So it's definitely a concern going into Georgia playing a really elite quarterback like Carson Beck. I think people kind of see Georgia and they think, oh, it's a run the ball team, play defense, and get by at quarterback. But I don't think that's this version of Georgia. I think Carson Beck is a legit NFL talent, and I think he can exploit some of these weaknesses if we don't get him fixed.
Yeah, well said. I mean, he's not just like a game manager type college quarterback like we've seen in the past who's going to go like day 2, day 3 of the draft. He's projected like a top 3 draft pick. He's an NFL talent, no doubt, and certainly one of the best quarterbacks in college football this year. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, I totally agree. And while we'll transition away from the negatives, we'll go to some positives. And one positive so far is Keon Sabb. I feel like his opening to the season was incredible. How he just came out and just almost immediately, it was like he had 2 interceptions in the blink of an eye. And this is his second one in the first quarter against Western Kentucky. They're going to circle it for me. But, well, that's a little semicircle.
Great circle.
Yeah, it's a great semicircle. Not even a good semicircle either. But Keon Sabb is kind of playing center field here. And I feel like he's just has a knack for just getting to the ball, knowing kind of where the quarterback's going to go with it and kind of making a play on it. But as you see here, he just kind of reads the play easily, just watches the quarterback's eyes. Quarterback just kind of lets him know where he's going to throw it, and it's just such an easy play to make. Don't really know what TJ Finley's doing, but, whenever you throw it and Keon Sabb's just waiting on it 5 yards behind the defender, that's going to be an easy play every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this over and over trying to figure out why. TJ Finley, what are we doing? Why are you trying to – I guess he just thinks he can gun it in there, but, man, that's a rough read. I mean, it just looks like a basic cover 3. Thomas, like you said, Keon Sabb's just playing center field. He's lurking right there, right in line with where that receiver's going. I don't know if Finley just doesn't see him or thinks he can gun it in there, but, yeah, that's a rough read and a good play by Sabb. It's a well-timed break on the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's done that a couple times this year, even on plays where he hasn't necessarily gotten the interception. He's made some nice pass breakups, maybe even some that should have been interceptions also. But he's done a good job reading the quarterback's eyes and getting in a good position to make a play.
Yeah,
I think it's important to have an experienced guy too in a secondary with so much inexperience, like we alluded to. I mean, he's played a lot of ball for a quality team on a quality defense, and I think that's important, just kind of as like a veteran mentor for the younger guys back there.
Yeah, we'll see on this play too. You can see kind of where he starts the play. He starts it, let's say the ball is kind of at the 37. He's around the 44, 43. But as soon as the ball is snapped, he's going. So this looks like it's some type of blitz, some type of safety blitz. But he goes really and just makes a play on the ball. Like, it's just like I said, he has a knack for getting to the ball, putting his hands on the ball, and this is one of those plays. So just another athletic play, because like if this happens in another game, who's to say, blitzes and that ball gets tipped up the other way and one of our linebackers picks the ball off and makes a play. So just playmaking abilities off the charts with Keon Sabb.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see the replay here too, just kind of show off the athleticism here.
Yeah, love that.
Great job.
Yeah, and then we'll transition into two more plays. While we talked about our secondary has had some lapses in coverage, our secondary really has also a knack for just hitting people hard, and they love to tackle. And this is a play here where Alabama kind of has a misalignment here from LT Overton and a few of the linemen that leaves a hole just wide open for Wisconsin to run the ball through. But Malachi Moore makes an incredible play here, just hits right on the football, right to Xavier Brown's hands, and we'll see it better on the replay here. But just a further example, just these guys are willing to hit, willing to take some licks for the guys and make plays. So, and you love to see that from secondary players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's nothing that fires me up more when I watch defense than DBs who fly around and are willing to hit and, are actively trying to, be physical and force turnovers. That I think that just sets the tone for the entire defense. When your smallest guys, who presumably should be the most kind of averse to getting in there and making big hits, when they're the ones flying around and are willing to make those hits, I think that just I think it energizes the entire defense and the entire team. So I definitely love to see that from Malachi here.
Yeah, and then the last play we'll have here is a play from Red Morgan. He had that bad rep on the second play we showed you here, but Red Morgan is lined up right here, kind of govern the slot, and he is the one that's going to make this play. The running back is about 10 yards away from him at a diagonal angle, and he's the one that's going to run up and make this play.
That's awesome. I love that, man.
That's such a good hit. It really is.
I mean, how many true freshmen who are like 185 pounds are going to be willing to run in there and make that play? Most guys in the country who are in that position I think are going to be passive and, if the guy comes to me, maybe I'll try to make a play, but he just guns it in there without a second thought. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you said it right there. I think a lot of corners have a let him come to me mentality and kind of stay in there, don't mess anything up, make the play. But no, he's attacking. He makes a really good play there, and he saves Alabama probably at least 5 yards on that play by coming up and making that hit. It's a really good job.
Yeah, because like Cole said, if he waits at that 45-yard line, the running back's going to bounce off, and he's going to get more yardage and may even make a play on Red Morgan. But him coming up, making that play, he's got nowhere to go.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and I don't have anything else to add here. That was the last play that I had, so I don't know if you boys have anything else to say.
No, I think we covered these plays pretty well. I guess just to wrap it up, I mean, where do we think this defense goes from here? Where do we want to see the most improvement, I guess? As we go throughout the season and these guys get more comfortable playing together and more comfortable with Kane Wommack's defense, where do we think we go from here?
I think it's just to get tested. That's just the honest answer. Like where Georgia, I don't think has the best group of pass catchers. I feel like a thing that we saw in the Kentucky game is they don't have Brock Bowers as a safety net. They don't have Lad McConkey as a safety net anymore. But one thing they do have is an elite quarterback. And then you have teams like Tennessee who has an elite quarterback, has a good group of receivers. LSU's got a good quarterback that can make throws. Like all those plays where they were running wide open, Garrett Nussmeier can hit those guys in stride. He's a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. And just be tested. Like when we play these good quarterbacks, how are we going to respond? How are we going to respond to a quarterback hitting a big 70-yard touchdown? What's the next play going to look like? How does this defense respond? I usually always text you guys and say the defense can bend, but they don't break. How are they going to respond to big plays?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that, Thomas. I think that's well said. I do like the mental makeup of this defense, though. I think they're tough. I think, like we said, they don't shy away from tackling. I think Kane Wommack's been a really pleasant. Well, I won't even say pleasant surprise. I just think he's been a good addition. I think he's, like I said in the previous video, I think this defense is well equipped to kind of defend the spread in the modern era of college football. And yeah, there's some inexperience there. There have been some plays where the coverage hasn't been the best, but I'm encouraged by what I've seen. So I like where they're at mentally, and I trust Wommack and the rest of the defensive staff to coach those guys up and fix up some of those mistakes. All right. I think that'll do it for this, our second kind of defensive breakdown of the first few weeks of the season. We appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you think we left out anything, if we were unfair to anybody, if we didn't give anybody their flowers, definitely let us know in the comments. Let us know on Twitter. We'd love to get some conversation going. But in the meantime, until our next video, we'll talk to you guys later. Thomas and Cole, great seeing you guys, kind of resurrecting the Roll Tide Rewind after a few years. And I think we'll be back with a few more videos later on this season. I'm enjoying doing this. I'm glad we're back doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Tide. We'll talk to y'all later.